Welcome to Built on Air, a podcast and video series about all things Airtable. Each episode, we will talk with someone active in the Airtable community to discuss their experiences and showcase an interesting way they've used Airtable in their work. We want to thank our sponsor, OpenSide. OpenSide's newest product, Onto Air Forms, is the Airtable form solution that you've been looking for. Visit openside.com to see how you can take your Airtable workflow to the next level. For a limited time, get Onto Air Forms free when you purchase the Onto Air Action Zapier connector. Finally, visit BuiltOnAir.com to sign up for the Built on Air mailing list, where you can get weekly updates on the new podcast episodes and other fun Airtable news.
Hey, Anton, welcome to Built on Air. Thanks so much for joining us on the show today.
Thanks, Zoe. I'm really excited to chat today.
I am too. And I guess let's kind of start with, of course, your demo today is going to be about all of the awesome Airtable systems that you've built for your nonprofit, Northwest Hospitality. But maybe back it up a little bit for us and kind of tell us how you kind of got on this nonprofit path.
Yeah, so that started with some outreach projects I did when I was in college at the University of Washington at the turn of the century. And from there, I had I was passionate about that work, and I tried to reach out to some companies way back in the day to start something that I'm doing now as hospitality cards, but never got that off the ground, but it was always kind of in the back of my head. And over the years, I kind of tried it a couple times, didn't work. And then around 2015, I tried to start that and a couple other programs with existing nonprofits, kind of get under their umbrella. And it wasn't working quite the way I wanted to. And so I ultimately ended up starting my own nonprofit, Northwest Hospitality, in end of 2016.
Nice. So tell our listeners a little bit about what Northwest Hospitality's mission is and what you guys do.
Yeah, so I'm going to cover naturally a lot of the programs we have as we walk through the base. I'll be showing you, but the main mission is going to be simple, basic needs outreach. And we're trying to keep our programs kind of decentralized, trying to make it so that we don't need a warehouse. We don't need to bring people to us to give them the services that we're providing. So, for example, one program I've been struggling to get off the ground is a haircut voucher program where I distribute vouchers with verifiable PIN codes. And all that works within Airtable. So the people can take this voucher to any barber in the state or anywhere really, say, hey, this place is going to pay for my service. And then the barber logs into the Airtable form and types in the PIN code to verify it's valid and redeem it. And then, we get a notification that somebody's redeemed it, and we call them up and say, here's your payment. So that hasn't been really accepted yet. We don't have the funds to get a lot of those cards out there, so kind of slow going. But that kind of idea where the program is really easy for the people to take advantage of on their time with dignity, kind of without coming to us, so
Right.
that they can do it on their own terms, kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. And I kind of like your approach to this, right? Where, your sort of substitute, right, for making the homeless come in and, fill out a bunch of forms every time they want a haircut or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
is just sort of figuring out creative ways to get, really easy to use systems on board. So you and all of your, partners and collaborators can kind of take care of that stuff, remotely behind the scenes.
Right.
That's a really cool way to approach it. And especially too, because I think one of the, well, of course, always the biggest challenge in the nonprofit world, right, tends to be getting funding, of course, but also a lot of it can be, making sure you're keeping those accurate records, so you can, get grants and, like do all of the paperwork, right, that's required for that nonprofit status. So you use Airtable heavily, but are you coupling that with any other sort of like systems or, record keeping type applications that you need for, nonprofit homeless oriented, record keeping specifically? Or is everything?
No, everything is completely contained in we have one main management database that has a frightening number of tables and and all the information we need in there. There's a couple services that I've separated out into their own bases for the nonprofit, and those I'm building up a Washington State resource database, and that's separate from the contact management and program management, because we print the locally curated resource lists out to include in hospitality kits we put together.
Cool.
So that if people are in a particular county and we know that hospitality kit is going to get distributed in that county, then I build a resource list by county that gets printed out for that kit. And since I was I have to build my own resource list. I can't use the ones online already because I need to format and print for the printed versions.
Right.
So because I had to build my own database, I made it public and available online as well. And so that's its own base in Airtable. And then we have other bases for managing like citations for we have a little credits form on our website that shows where we got all of our images, any linked articles, everything that we use in our blog or on Facebook is credited on the website so that, we can give people proper thanks. And then, so we have a couple separate databases, but the one management database is pretty much all containing and pretty cool.
Yeah. Awesome. And really, it sounds like you kind of have this really unique thing to bring to the table for your nonprofit, is that you're so systems oriented. In my experience in the nonprofit world, it tends to be a lot of people who are really passionate or are very good at, kind of going out and maybe executing something, but
Right.
It's that systems backend that, can be a mess, and like pulling all that data from all these sources it's like,
yeah.
A total nightmare. So it seems, kind of your, intuition for systems, right, really kind of allows you to think first about, where do I need this information to go? Who needs to be able to see it? And then you can kind of work backwards from there. So that's a really
and I might have been pushed into that a little bit with the birth of my boys. I'm kind of trapped at home a lot. So as much as I want to get out and not trapped, I'm happy watching the boys, but
right.
I can't get out and be as involved in the streets as I'd like to be at the moment. So I always have the opportunity to think about new ways to take advantage of the great technology we have available and bend it to the will of the services we're trying to provide. One of the new programs, the hospitality cards, is we have been using subway cards, and we put them out into people's hands, and then we can put more money on those every week so they can continue getting sandwiches. I'm trying to shift that into a new program or a new card that a company offers for parents and teenagers. And so if I can get this working, then the people that we're helping can, buy clothes and food, but be restricted from, things they shouldn't be buying. And
right.
Our donors can trust about where their money is going to be going. So,
right.
Using the technology and taking advantage of that while I'm here at home and not able to run the streets helping people is a good way to keep myself busy.
For sure. And you are kind of a person who does wear a lot of hats, obviously Northwest hospitality, stay-at-home dad, and you're also a part-time EMT, right? Or you were up until recently?
Yeah. Yeah, I still am part-time, but working, in Bremerton, Washington, driving private ambulance. So, that's a good way to get out and meet people too, and keep myself interacting with adults occasionally.
Right. Yeah. Not having to have the, 6-year-old type conversations. I get that for sure. Yeah, I work from home and normally it's just me, talking to the dog and the cat. So I understand. And you also, you kind of have a bit of systems experience from some of your previous work as a lab tech, right? So tell us kind of a little bit about um, how those experiences kind of maybe helped shape and push your skills that you're using now.
Yeah, sure. So it's been a while, but back in after graduating from the University of Washington with a biology degree, I started working with rat models of diabetes, and then from there I went into a histology lab and an immunology lab and microbiology, kind of bouncing around, keeping it fresh. But the microbiology lab in particular used a LIMS standard database laboratory information management system that I got to at least be a small part of influencing the way it was built and how it was used, because I was at the bench, but I also had the interest in dealing with keeping track of all the data, being able to use reports and management from there on. So it was a really fun thing for me to be able to be a part of, and it was a little too long ago for me to remember any specifics, but you can't get into that. I've always kind of been a big spreadsheet guy before Airtable. Excel was something I would really like. Everybody would look at me sideways, playing with a spreadsheet, like, what's wrong with this guy? Because I'd get so excited when I could make it do what I wanted it to do.
Right. Yeah.
I made a website or a spreadsheet for planning our wedding when we got married back in 2007,
Nice.
And I still have people ask me for that spreadsheet template so they can, and that's over 10 years old now. So, but Airtable, man, if I had that back then, that would have been so much more fun.
Oh my gosh, I know, right? But yeah, it really does sort of this ability to kind of think about how things are organized, at sort of a macro level, right? And then also be, the lab tech, right? Who in your workflow how you're going to be using it every day on like a super micro level. That's kind of a great position to be in, right? Because you can say, hey, it should be like this, to get us the data, kind of reporting capabilities or whatever that we want. But also, like, if I'm using it every day, you want it to be easy to use. And a lot of times I think sometimes when systems are built, there's sort of a disconnect, right, between the humans that are inputting the data every day and then whatever actually has to happen to that data. So
yeah.
And it is sort of a rare breed of human that can, give insight into both, right? What you want it to be on a day-to-day basis, and then also kind of zoom out and see how everything should fit together. So I'm curious, obviously, you have sort of this, passion to help people as an EMT, with your homeless initiatives with Northwest Hospitality. How did Northwest kind of, come to be this thing that you decided to start yourself? Like you mentioned that, you were kind of looking for other nonprofit partners, but I'm just curious kind of where like, I'm just curious, what kind of brought you right to champion this cause? Like, what personally kind of, passion do you have for it?
Yeah, so it started out real simple. The organization's a little bit more broad and complicated now, but the first two programs I was trying to get started were hospitality kits, just little packages, and I didn't want to distribute them at shelters and other places where people were already getting services. I wanted to bring in the community and get them in the hands of the community members who could take them out into the corners of the neighborhoods and things, and get people who might not be getting served, and build relationships and bring people in, make them feel welcome to come and find those other services. And then the hospitality cards I was explaining with the subway cards, those were the two first programs that I was trying to get other nonprofits to just kind of run with, and I would support those efforts and kind of be the lead for them. But the way it was working, bigger nonprofits can be, it can be hard to steer the boat a different direction or add a different focus under their umbrella. So it just was, it was well received, but it wasn't happening fast enough or the way I was looking for. So finally, toward the end of 2016, I decided, well, I really don't want to have my own nonprofit because there's a whole bunch of new headaches but there's not really any other way to do this. And I was doing the hospitality kits already, and I just couldn't afford to keep doing it without some donor support. And I wanted to be able to give my donors the benefits a nonprofit can provide. So I made it happen, and now we have a board of directors, and we're expanding into a bunch of different programs that kind of organically are developing as we are out with people. And we have a environmental hospitality program now where we pick up trash around homeless encampments.
Awesome.
Or anywhere, but not exclusively around encampments, but that's kind of our focus. And then the other programs, the new hospitality card program, and we'll go into that. We won't be able to avoid it much when I'm going through the database, but yeah. So it all started with those two programs, and really it was something I was already doing, and I just needed. I wanted to get more people involved, and this was the best way to do it.
Yeah. So I guess now is a great time, since we've been kind of talking about all of these things your Airtable base contains, for you to share your screen and give us an awesome walkthrough.
So here's our main hospitality management database. I've scrubbed it. I left all the vendor information in there because I don't care if you see who kind of supports us, but all of our donors have been, their names have been changed to, Amazing Donor, and all of our volunteers have been changed to Fantastic Volunteer.
Nice.
So all the addresses have been removed and everything. So this main contact management page, actually preparing to chat with you, when I came into the Northwest Hospitality and started building the base, I had already been using it for personal reasons. I found it just kind of, because I was big into spreadsheets and enjoyed that, I just kind of stumbled across it a while ago. Actually, I think the first thing I made was an almanac. When we moved into this house, I wanted a personal almanac for our gardens because the house has like really nice landscaping and all kinds of plants. So I built this so that I could identify them and keep track of when things flowered and fruited and harvests and weather and all this stuff. So
yeah, that's so funny.
So I'd already been using it.
We just moved to a place that has an actual backyard. I was in an apartment before, and I started an Airtable base this season for like our raised garden beds and stuff. So I totally understand
Perfect for it.
yeah, and it's so much fun, and just like there's something really satisfying about quantifying garden stuff. I don't know what it is. I guess I'm just a plant nerd, but I totally feel you on that.
And it's easier now that they've, smoothed out their app.
Mm-hmm.
When I was setting up ours, the app was a beta, was in beta still. So I would have my phone with me, and I'd be trying to take pictures of plants, and it would quite often not work, or take 5 minutes for the picture to link to the record. And so it's beautiful now. Go out and catalog the whole garden.
For sure.
But so I had already been using Airtable for a while when I went to set up this management database, and I made a mistake setting this one up. I had a donors tab, and then I had a different contacts and vendors tab. I had separated my contact management into two different tables, because I wanted to keep my donors ready or separate, and I didn't really have a full understanding of the different views I could use and how I could split those off and do that. So actually I had just kind of lived with that mistake until about 2 weeks ago, when I was about getting ready to talk with you, and I was like, this just looks terrible. It's the wrong way to do it. So I forced myself to sit down and merge the two, so into the one table now. So this one works with, and actually maybe I should start with the summary tab, because that's where I met, that's how I met Dan. I had most of this put together already, and I was having a problem with the summary tab because of since this time, Airtable has released upgrades that make this much nicer. But back then, I needed a different table for every year to summarize, and I got on the Airtable forums and asked for help to see if anybody knew how I could do this differently or better. And Dan got in touch, and I shared the base with him, and we talked about it. And at that time, there was no solution, so I continued. And eventually, when they changed, I don't even know what it was they changed, but at some point they made it possible to do it this way, where I can just have one record per year and then a cumulative record. So now every time I get a donation, it's as simple as including both a link to the cumulative summary and to the year. Everything summarizes perfectly for me on the summary table. So that's how I met Dan, was chatting about that, improvements for that feature at this space.
And just to give our listeners context, Dan Fellers is the founder of OpenSide, and OpenSide is you guys hear me say it in the intro every week. They're the sponsor of this show and BuiltOnAir. So yeah, Dan is an Airtable wizard for sure. And kind of also to that point, I really do, I think about this all the time, where like I'll build out a base, for myself or for a client. And then I always think, if I were to do this again now, like there's a lot of things, like I wouldn't ever build a base the same way twice, there's always like different things. Once you kind of get in and start using it, you're like, oh, wow, well, I could have done it, this way instead. Or like, now that there's this new feature, I can really like adjust this to work a little better. So yeah, it's kind of always evolving if you want it to be.
Yeah, any Airtable update is like its own Christmas. Like, ooh, what can I do now? So that's the summary tab kind of brought me in with OpenSide, and then I emailed him a couple months ago and said, hey, they fixed this, and I just wanted to give you a follow-up that I was able to figure this out. And he was like, hey, you should maybe talk to Zoe, because this is kind of a cool base. So,
and here we are.
So the donations expenses tables are pretty, and the communications, those are pretty self-explanatory. One of the cool things I was talking about earlier is the hospitality cards, and how we put more money on subway cards over the, every week or as often as we have funds available,
Mm-hmm.
I log into the Subway, online, and these are the cards we have active in people's hands at the moment. These bottom two are actually the new current style
Nice.
hospitality cards. These three are Subway cards, and when I go, I can link. I have to. Subway gave us a 6% discount on all the cards we purchased, so I actually have to buy cards to transfer those funds over to the cards we have in the street. So it's a little bit of a, working within other systems in order to make it work.
Right.
But so on this table, I link this $10 value. I'll link to a card that's already active, and over time, so this card has had $236 transferred onto it over the past, since it was distributed at the end of 2018 or in halfway through 2018. So
Nice.
it just keeps track of where the money's going and the amount of meals. The meals get counted up here. So this one's provided about 30 meals. And so overall, all the hospitality cards we've had, if they haven't been used, I can see when they're used on the online thing. And if they haven't been on Subway's website, if they haven't been used for a few months, I retire them. And so that I can get new cards out that will be used.
Got it.
And so it's about 314 meals we've done over the past couple of years. So not much, but with $2,500, that's pretty decent. And people were able to get meals on their terms, kind of in a dignified way without, hey, we got to go to the soup kitchen at this time. They can just go to a Subway whenever they want.
Right.
And now
it's not just like you get whatever we're serving today.
Right.
They can, choose their spicy Italian or whatever.
Yeah, which I don't want to disparage at all. Of course, that's a great service too, but just trying to do things a little differently.
Yeah.
And then hopefully with these new cards, with the new company we're working with, they'll be able to get things other than sandwiches. They'll be able to go get some teriyaki or get a pair of socks, or even one thing that is very difficult for people living in the streets without income is getting their medications that they may need for any number of reasons. So but then because it's set up for teens, they still won't be able to use it to get cigarettes or beer, stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's, it really is, it's not just like, it's like something like this, right, would work in conjunction with, kind of all of the already existing, programs that the city offers or other nonprofits offer. So it's cool.
Exactly.
You're not just trying to provide, more of the same support that's, kind of already available. You're, thinking, well, what, where can I go a little bit further, right? To fill gaps.
So the other program I was mentioning, the haircut vouchers, that I still haven't quite gotten off the ground yet, but is just such a cool design in Airtable. I should have pulled up the vouchers themselves are, just two-sided cards that I distribute. And as you can see, we've only had funds because whenever I distribute one, I have to kind of plan to pay that money. So I need to keep a budget available for that. And we have a small budget. So as you can see, we've only been able to get 10 cards out, and 8 of which are still in circulation, and a few have expired because they weren't used after a certain amount of time. But on our website, I have a kind of a haircuts partner page that shows the cards that get distributed. So this is what they see when people, this is what we hand out. And the barber, so there's one extra step for the barber, which I think is kind of preventing it from being used a little bit. they have to go to either this website or use this QR code, and then they select the correct voucher and enter the PIN code from this form. So they come in and they can redeem any of the vouchers that are, that's redeemed by. They can redeem any of the vouchers that are out, and then they submit it, and it'll tell them based on what is put in. If the PIN code has already been used, or if it's the wrong PIN code, it'll tell them not valid. And if the PIN code is the correct PIN code, on the website, it tells them directly that it's been redeemed if they choose to redeem it.
Cool.
And then we get a notification thanks to the integration with Zapier that tells us, hey, these people used this form, they redeemed this card, call them here, and we can call them right up and pay for that service. So
nice.
This interaction between these two tables, the way it all ties together, the people redeeming the vouchers come in and they see a view like this, and then they click on the URL to go to that form and redeem it, and then they see in the status bar it updates automatically based on their entries and says either valid, because they can choose whether or not to redeem it. They can just check the validation. It'll say valid or it'll say redeemed. And the way these tables work together, it took me like 8 hours of like messing around with it. And honestly, I didn't think it was going to work. I didn't really know what I was doing when I got started. And by the end, I just couldn't believe that all the back and forth works as well as it does. And so I'm really, really excited for somebody to actually use it.
Right. Yeah. Now that
and I'm just waiting
that foundation.
Yeah, just waiting for that day when I get that email or the phone call, because they can call us too, to get that to so that we can start paying for these services. But
awesome.
As yet, no luck. So I have recently started working with people doing the hospitality cards and the environmental hospitality in particular, where we pick up trash around homeless encampments. We meet a lot of people, and there's just so many specific needs that come up. So we branched out and started a special projects program, and this manages all those, these two tables here. So for things that will have vouchers, there's a dentistry office in Port Orchard who had Groupons, and so we went and bought the Groupons and left the vouchers there for a free dental health checkup with an X-ray, an exam, and a cleaning. And so we left those vouchers with them, and they're in here so people can come in and see, okay, they have 3 vouchers available. And then when we get a call from or actually I guess Groupon would notify us, but the office can call us and say, hey, somebody used this voucher, and so we'll check that off. We'll say it's been used, and then there will only be 2. And when we were cleaning up one of our areas, they needed some supplies just to be more comfortable, blankets, rubber boots, socks, things like that. So we did a special on the website. I made a special fundraising page just for that event. We raised some money, and then we bought these items, and all this is publicly visible on our website. That's one of the things Airtable has made really easy, is sharing and being completely transparent with all this. So everybody can see, okay, we spent $285 of the $348 we raised. The project has a balance of $0 though, but those funds were transferred into the general. So next time we come up with a special need for somebody we're serving, we don't need to necessarily go have a big fundraiser for it. We have a little bit of a budget to go, get them a pair of socks right away without all the hassle of fundraising and all that stuff. So,
right.
And then, and that's another thing, sharing online with my donors is something that I'm really excited about. Airtable has allowed us to share this information without making people have logins and passwords and all that stuff. They can pretty much, with the information that Airtable lets me share, while respecting people's privacy online, we could be, you could sit down and audit Northwest Hospitality if you really were gung-ho to do so. It's all on the website because all of our donors have donor IDs. So I don't share their name on the website, but you can see all the donations that have come in. You can see all the expenses that have gone out and what they're for and how it all ties together. Sometimes donations and expenses are linked together. If it's a purchase of a particular item,
Right.
We can link those so that you have that relationship. So having that ability to share that information with the donors and I think really helps, them trust us and see what we're doing and opens the door for better relationships with our donors. Some of the
yeah, you can kind of see exactly where your dollars are going, and that is really sort of invigorating, right? And yeah, it does kind of establish that relationship of trust, especially since you always hear in the news about nonprofits who only 10% of the funds raised actually go to helping their cause.
mhm.
It's kind of establishing that trust just through transparency of data is so helpful.
Yeah, and those numbers are right on our summary page. I think we're at 38% of our funds go to operations right now. But that's just because we're so small.
Right, and I mean that's kind of standard too. That's standard for, I think.
Yeah,
you need some money, right, to just be able to do the thing, keep things going, right, keep the lights on.
Right, but this is all shared on the website as well, so people can come in and, like you say, if they have a question, then it's right there. They check it out, and there it is. So the special projects is just a really flexible way for us to do whatever we need to, and hopefully once we get more funds in there, just do it, immediately and really quick and easy. We have a really robust inventory for all the supplies that we have. So we have different kinds of supplies, of course. We have hospitality kit supplies, and then we have non-kit supplies that are good for good to hand out, but they don't fit in the hospitality kits. And we have marketing supplies, and then the environmental cleanup supplies. And all this tells you where it's at and how much of whatever we have. So we have 222 gallon zipper bags on hand, but we don't have any hand wipes. And so this helps us create a kit shopping list view. So I know that if I want to make 25 kits, the first thing I'm going to need to buy is, hand wipes and granola bars, and then I'll need a few more toothbrushes. And then after that, I will have enough supplies on hand to make those 25 kits easily. And then I have some supplies down here that aren't essential for the kits. So if I can get some socks and hand warmers, or they're either not essential or they're seasonal. Like hand warmers, we won't need in the spring, and batteries we don't always include because they can be expensive. So
for sure.
So this helps us really quickly and easily if we have a community group. So if we have a group that comes in and says, hey, we want to put together 30 kits, okay, I have this many supplies on hand. raise this much money and we'll buy the rest for you and get all the kits to you with instructions on how to assemble, and then you can distribute them. So
Awesome.
that's kind of how we work there. And this makes it really easy to see what we need and get them ordered quick and efficiently.
Right. Yeah. Because I think another kind of part, like thing that nonprofits struggle with sometimes is you do have people who want to help, right? But it's like just organizing that information to be able to figure out what you need to tell those people who want to help what to do next,
Right.
you know, like figuring out like, oh, we need to count everything to see what we need to buy, right? You've kind of already eliminated that step just by, you know, creating this nice record system.
Yeah, and the way it works with our, you know, ordering in here in the database is so smooth. You know, I don't have to enter all these numbers. It's just linked to, you know, the orders I put in. I have to put in, you know, how many combs I get into the order so that I know that I get what I ordered. So it's all tied together so well that I don't even have to do anything. It's all there.
Right. Yeah. You only do it once and then it goes everywhere else that you need to go.
Yeah. Then of course we have a table for tracking volunteer hours. That's pretty straightforward. But it's important for, you know, we provide our volunteers, you know, medical coverage if they're working with us. So if they get injured, we'll provide what we can. And then I'm still working on the budget calculation. I'd like the one thing this base doesn't do very well yet is kind of predict what we're going to have available for the future. It's kind of hard because we don't know exactly what donations we're going to be bringing in, and we spend them as soon as we get them. So we don't usually carry a balance really, but we do have some bigger expenses like you know, like the insurance and like the website hosting that we have to plan for. And the database right now, the way it's set up, doesn't really help me plan for those future expenses very well. But that's what this budget calculation, which is taking in linked records from the donations and expenses table based on whether the donation or expense is annual or monthly. And that eventually that'll help me calculate, you know, what's coming up the next month and what's coming up annually, what to expect. So
cool. Yeah. Getting that forward thinking portion on top of, since you're so good right now, I think of like tracking what is currently going on. That's right. The natural next step to add to this base. Yeah.
So the other really cool, you know, all the blocks that Airtable has added have really opened up a lot of great tools for us in order to let people lead groups of volunteers out in the field picking up trash. I've kind of created a training program, and right now I'm the only volunteer lead for the nonprofit, but I can't be everywhere at once. So I'm hoping to get some of our board trained and then some other community members trained, and then this you know, page designer just generates certificate that I can give them afterwards and say, here, thanks for doing the training. You have this, and this links into the event submissions table. So if people have it, you can see I've changed even my name here, but you can see because this volunteer has one of these, then they're labeled on a roster as a volunteer lead. Nice. And they'll have their phone number there. And that ties together with the volunteer roster forms that the base generates for us. So as we, I don't have anybody registered for that one yet, but these are the past ones. So as we add volunteers to events that we create for cleaning up these rosters, so on April 13th, we cleaned up along a street called Aurora in Seattle. And I had 3 volunteers, myself and 2 others. And this prints out. I bring a blank it doesn't have times in it then, but they put their times in.
Ooh, would you
and
expand that block a little bit for us so we can look a little closer?
Sorry about that.
No worries.
So I just print this out, this generates, and then I have a little spiel I can read everybody beforehand about safety and how to do different things. And then if people selected in their registration form that they want to be left out of pictures, for example, their name here will be marked with an asterisk, so I can tell the other volunteers, hey, this person, they don't want their picture shared on social media or whatever, so try to leave them out of pictures, or if you do take a picture, don't share it. And so all that's built in here. So the roster I'll show up to the event with will have everybody's name. It'll have my phone number, or the volunteer lead phone number, so that everybody can reach me, and then everybody will be able to sign in and out. So I'll be able to enter volunteer times later.
Awesome.
So it's super easy and useful. And these are all the past rosters, and any upcoming events is separated into its own. That way I don't have to thumb through a million different
right. Yeah.
Of course, if I have it selected properly, upcoming events. This just shows me the upcoming ones, so I don't have to thumb through all the past rosters.
Nice.
And then I've been working on, we have a monthly newsletter that we send out. And so I've been working on a graphic to kind of summarize all the impact for the year or for the month. And that's kind of the design here. So every time I go in to enter this information, I don't have to go bouncing all over the database to find it all, because Airtable's block just summarizes it here for me, and I can just go down and read. Once they finally move this into the next stage and let us share it without sharing the whole database,
right,
it'll open up so many doors of, I'll be able to hopefully format this in a way that looks, nice, and then I'll be able to embed it directly onto our website so that it just updates automatically. That's kind of what I'm hoping these will turn into eventually.
Right.
Because I have those numbers shared on the base, but I have to go in and manually update them every so often, so they get out of date, and it's kind of a pain to update them. So these are perfectly designed for just plugging into the base or plugging into the website and letting it just report those numbers for me without people digging through a database to find them, because they're all available if people want to find them in the database too. But most people don't want to do that search.
Right.
Another thing I'd like to share with people is the committee structure. But again, I can't share this really cool block with people because I'd have to share the whole database.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the kind of, it took me a while to get a board of directors together and started, because I was just kind of flying solo. But now that I have a board together, we've been putting together, planning committees. And so this is a great way to visualize, we have a marketing committee. It'll probably have one member here, but then, it'll have subcommittees, each with their own members, and it'll have contact information built in here. So
cool.
This will be a great thing for me to incorporate into the website when I can share it without including all the data behind it.
Absolutely.
That I need to keep private. The budgets one is kind of an older one that I don't really use a whole lot. That was like the first one I did. It's helpful, but it's mostly just duplication of the summaries tab. So
mm-hmm. Yeah, but it is nice now that they added those separate dashboards for blocks too.
Yes.
So you don't have to have like 50 blocks, right?
Yeah.
Scrolling. Very cool. Yeah, I love kind of what you've put together here, and it's just so elegantly and thoughtfully combined into, one spot where it's really easy for you to input data, see what's going on, and then also share it with others too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the summary tab brings together the entire database into one spot with all the subway card reloads, how many active we have, how many meals have been provided, how many volunteer hours we've done. It counts up the unique volunteers I've had. So right now it says one because everybody's a fantastic volunteer.
Fantastic.
But it tells me, okay, some people are going to volunteer more than once, but I want to know how many unique volunteers have come in and volunteered. And so it gives me that number. And then it, all the pounds of trash that have been cleaned up, how many miles of roadway, it just pulls the whole database in for everything. And really helps. This helps me visualize. This is where most of this information comes from. But
yeah, this is so cool. And just really, since so much I think of a nonprofit, right, is getting that data to kind of measure your impact. You just have it here so neatly. I know from previous nonprofit experience, right, just like pulling together all that data sometimes can take hours, right, when you need to create a little summary graphic or like a cool sponsorship guide or something, so just having everything so thoughtfully in one place is just huge. And yeah, thank you so much for kind of just opening up your operating base for us and letting us peek under the hood.
It was my pleasure. I never get to chat with people about all this stuff. I always get the rolled eyes and again.
Right. Yeah. You needed a chance to nerd out a little bit.
Yeah, totally.
With people who enjoy it. So tell our listeners, is there anything else you want to share in terms of Airtable before we kind of wrap things up? Or
well, I've shared a few things on the universe. Again, I didn't start doing that until you contacted me for this, but I do have the other main database we have is the homeless resource database for Washington State that we use to print out our resource lists for the hospitality kits. And so this one is shared on the website, but I've been actually taking or trying in my spare time to take HTML and CSS classes to figure out how to build a front end for this so that people can interact with, when they select, their county, and then they select just the resources they're looking for, instead of interacting with the search forms I've created on the website. This is kind of what they see, and then they can, find, okay, well, I need a resource in Kitsap County. I need a job in Kitsap County, and then they see all the resources. So I need to build a front end for this that will, that people can interact with better. So that's kind of on the docket. And I think Dan put me in touch with the table to site people to look at that. And I think that service is really cool. It's not quite going to work out just yet for what we're trying to do with this one. They don't have quite the features to split the drop down lists in the way that we need for this, but very soon I think they'll be able to help with that.
Right. And yeah, it's cool to see kind of all of those new tools, right, that people are creating to kind of help you, connect your Airtable to other things, show the data in a different way, and, kind of just expand on all of the capabilities that Airtable already has.
Right.
And so we'll definitely include a link in the show notes to your Airtable universe profile so people can check out everything you have on there.
Cool.
And then tell our listeners where they can go to learn more about Northwest Hospitality or, become a donor or a volunteer.
Yeah. The website is nwhospitality.org, and then you can get involved right here. You can either contribute or volunteer. We do occasional events. I'm trying to get more of those environmental hospitality litter cleanup events, because it's really easy to get some people together and go pick up trash, and it doesn't cost us anything, and it's a good way to give back to the community. And when we do it with the cooperation of homeless encampments, then we improve the relationship between the community and the encampment and the people living there. So it's just a win all around.
Absolutely.
So you can volunteer for events, or you can sign up join our volunteer network, and that's another Airtable form that will let you put in your county. And unfortunately, this is all just in Washington State, but you'll put in your county, and then you'll put in your skill, interests, in ways that you want to give back to the community. And if we have opportunities that match those, we'll contact you and let you know about them, so that you can help out in ways that you can and are interested in. That's nwhospitality.org, and that's probably the best way to get in touch with me. We have a contact form on here, or I'm at Anton at nwhospitality.org. For private stuff, I'll just give you my private email after you mail me that.
Right. Very cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Anton, for chatting with us about Northwest Hospitality and all of the other hats that you're wearing, and showing us your management base. It was a pleasure.
It's been very fun. Thank you very much.